Hi, I'm Yedidia Tesfaye. I am a sophomore studying bio pre-med, and my minor is geography. Today I'm going to be talking about youth activism in China. Youth activism in China has been a complex issue that we've been looking at. It's made news headlines. People have had a lot to say. It's overall influenced by the country's political environment and the societal norms that have been in place, but also youth activism and other parts of the world have seen these protests erupt and grow in China in the past recent years, but it's been more of a widespread phenomenon that's been able to be seen across by different countries due to everyone having the access to cell phones and social media. This pretty much was just a way for people to express their form of activism, even with constraints due to having a really strict government and control over their political speech, and where they can assemble, where they cannot, but also the ability of just having the freedom of expression, which hasn't been there in a society for such a long time, but people there haven't been able to see it for such a long time. But now with youth having the ability to have cell phones on them at all times and just having the world at their fingertips, it's seen that they can make a change in their world. But here we're going to be talking about some key points regarding youth activism in China. But to even get there, we need to talk about what was causing this to even happen in the beginning. This all kind of started back in 1919 with the May 4th movement, when the government had put everyone into camps in a way, where they had to go work. They were pulled out of their education systems. If you were healthy and young enough to work, you were put to work. This definitely helped them in the long run, benefiting on such a quick economic boom and change that they had super fast, because no one else was doing anything except working. People didn't have the ability to go to school and have that freedom. Many young people were just stripped of their ability to have education, and they were sent to villages to work. But another time was the Tiananmen Square protests, where young people were put at the front lines and taken away from their ability to, which was started after Hu Yaobang's death, who was a former Communist Party leader. He just kind of sparked this thing of people that were frustrated with the issues and corruption, and they gathered in the Tiananmen Square and just went to go mourn the death. And this was pretty much the first thing we see of protests happening, and at the forefront was youth people, students, intellectuals, people that were of the working class, and they showed different forms of activism in sit-ins, hunger strikes, and just protesting with their words. The government wasn't really too happy with that, and they sent out tons of military and tanks, and many people died. This was pretty much the biggest crackdown and brutal force that was used against the people on just having that ability just to say what was happening and to stand up for what they believed in. It is still considered a taboo to be talked about there in China's school systems. Many people don't talk about this. It was such a big thing that happened that really impacted and shook a society of people, to show their strength in numbers. And this will always be seen as a struggle for democracy in China, and a form of people just saying like, hey, we need our human rights back. It's time for a change. And it was a form of people to represent themselves and Chinese citizens to be like, this is enough. We need something to happen. And that has had a long lasting effect on China's relationship with the outside world now, with them having control over what people see and what they can't see. Because as a society as a whole, they saw the importance of education and having the ability to read what they had at their fingertips. But when that was all taken away, something needed to happen. So key things that happened was state control and regulations. Like I just had stated previously, people didn't have the ability to say what they wanted to without getting in trouble. People didn't have the freedoms to practice what they wanted to without the party having control of what you were saying, seeing, and doing. Also, online activism has been a very big part of this, even though they've had censorship over everything that these people see and on the websites that they have. Somehow, some way, the Chinese youth and citizens have been able to have an outcry with our leading form of TikTok and the ability to reach other young people around all over the world, around the globe, and to have that ability just to see that there's a time for change and a time for freedom. Also, another form is environmental movements. Clean air, clean health, ability to have the basic healthcare needs, clean water has been such a big push, because when people are so concentrated in this area that cannot hold all these people, especially in the urban cities, air pollution is such a big problem that has been affecting a ton of people. But also education on what has happened in Chinese history to get them from point A to point B, which has not been something that was put out there for such a long time and still isn't. There's still a lot that they have hidden and censored for the youth there to not learn about until they go out on their own to learn about these things. But also, the last but not least is protest and dissatisfaction. They saw that number one form was with China's zero COVID policies in 2022 and between 2020 and 2022. Young people were at the forefront of saying, like, we need something to happen. We can't just stay in one place and just hide. This isn't the way to get things to change when you lock down an entire country of people. That's millions and billions of people staying in one spot, not being able to leave. But youth groups such as the Communist Youth League, the CYL, is a platform for youth contribution to nationalistic goals and projects, but they're primarily used by the government to instill loyalty to the party, which is you still can see that education and the youth have been in a form brainwashed to have this loyalty to their government and to their society. The next topic I'm gonna talk about is how has people been working impacted at such a big level in their growth as a country. But going back to what I was saying, like, here they saw the growth that happened so fast, but they were still very dissatisfied. Yes, Xiaoping did bring this great change and great growth for the people, but there was still an effect at the end of the day. But this has still been an emerging thing that's happening in our social media, and we can thank social media for these things that are happening because it's giving people a sense of freedom and a sense of strength. But thank you so much for letting me have this ability to educate people are doing, which is the 996 lifestyle. And that 996 lifestyle was from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That is with having no breaks, like working every single day where your only day off is just one day. And many young adults went into these careers as seeing as success was living in these populated urban areas and not in these rural areas. So when you have such big migrations to these big cities, the workforce can be very overwhelmed and not know what to do with all this. So these careers slowly can turn into jobs and burnout, which is what a lot of people saw as what was happening, and they didn't want to do this for the rest of their lives. So this was very fortunately banned, but many people still work under that big, like, they still work under this pressure of, my form of success is being able to work so much and not having the ability to have your own hobbies and explore who you are as a person. But with that, many stories have emerged of young people realizing this isn't the lifestyle that they want to live. This isn't the way that they wanted to have life, and not being able to go out, explore people, and date and marry. It's been such a quick boom, boom, boom process, and people wanted to take things and just to breathe. So instead of moving to big cities, people are starting to move out into rural areas and smaller towns just to gain that little bit of freedoms that they didn't have back in big cities. So with that, a new movement came out more on what is happening in China currently, and having the ability just to not persuade but inform people on why these things are very important. Thank you.